What up guys, it's your boy Valroy. In today's video we're gonna do some vocal editing. In my opinion, editing more than the mix is what can make a good vocal sound truly great. And today I'm going to show you how I edit vocals whenever I'm working on a song. So let's get into it. Editing can involve anything from cleaning up certain instruments if there is noise that shouldn't belong there, to picking out the best performances and kind of putting them together to make the best Frankenstein take, as I like to call it. And it can involve either elongating or shortening or even time correcting several different elements in a song. This is so important because when we think of mixing, usually we think about, okay, well, let's kind of balance everything out. Let's put some effects, let's EQ stuff in the mix. And of course that is massively important, but editing is perhaps equally as important because it's much more, dare I say, emotional, with a huge technical side to it as well that really goes underappreciated when it comes to actually producing music. Alrighty then, so here we are inside of our Pro Tools session, and here, these pink purplish tracks are the main vocals that we recorded on two separate microphones. So if we listen just to the song in context, so it sounds good. I just have a default compressor plugin here on both microphones at the time of recording, just so the singer was more comfortable listening and we kind of heard it a bit closer to what it would sound like at the finish line of making the sound. Now you notice that I was raising both of the faders separately. So the first thing that we do is actually with Command G, we make a group. I already did this, and the group I named as main vocals here, main vox exactly. And now every time I press solo or mute or change the faders, they will change together. Perfect. So that's step one in editing our vocals. Step number two, these compressors that we have here, we're gonna leave them on because we're not really gonna be working with plugins right now, maybe except for just one, but that will come later. This compressor that we have on here right now will actually help us to just listen to how the tracks are. Later, I would make an auxiliary track, put the compressor into that track, and route both of these microphones into the auxiliary track. But again, that's more in the mixing stage. We're not worried about that right now. I just need a solid reference so that I know that the editing that I do right now on this track is good. So. Now with Lisa's voice, we have the two microphones. The microphone on the left is a Rode NT1 routed through the Neve 1073 preamp. I wanted to also route another microphone because while we were recording the demos, Lisa was singing right into a Shure SM57, and that was sounding really good. I connected the SM57 to the other input of the Neve 1073 DPX, and I was actually getting some noise, like some ground noise or something was weird. But even pressing the ground lift switch on the front panel of the 1073, nothing changed. So I actually recorded the SM57 coming straight into the Soundcraft GB840's built-in preamps, and I recorded both of those at the same time. Now, when you are recording, you want to be recording, if you have more than one microphone that is, with the group already made. Why? Because every time I press on this arrow here and I choose new playlist, then I will actually get a new playlist on both channels, and they will be the same performance. They will be linked, if you will. So that's a huge reason why you want to have that beforehand, as you are actually tracking the voice. So what is editing, really? Between cutting, putting the fades, crossfades, choosing the best performances of each take and putting them into one Frankenstein take, I would say that this is the real bulk of editing, along with something else which may involve pitch correction like using Melodyne or something else that is very similar to it, Auto-Tune. And after you're done with everything that's like in this realm of work, then you move on to what would be the actual mixing stage, the traditional mixing stage, if you will. So what do? I have here what looks to be around 10 or 11 different performances that Lisa recorded for this song. Now, not all of them are of the whole song, if I'm not mistaken. So if I go up here, yeah, exactly. I only recorded some parts like this, exactly. So now we have to do the, quite frankly, very tedious work, but also very satisfying work of going in and listening to every word, everything that she sings in every single take, and we select that which we perceive to be the best performance of that word, shall we say. And we grab that part that we cut out, that we consider the best performance, and then we put it into a new track, and we begin to build up our Frankenstein take, as I call it. I know Frankenstein is a weird name for it, but it will all make sense. Kind of like Frankenstein's monster, but instead of horrifying, it's actually extremely beautiful, I promise. So this is the very first take that Lisa recorded, and now we're just going to listen.
How come it feels like no one says what they're thinking? They say
it sounds pretty good. I'm gonna raise both of the vocal mics all the way up just so I can really, really hear the nuance of her performance, of her breath, etc.
how come it feels like no one says what they're thinking? They say.
So she goes a little bit out of tune near the end. That's fine, you know, that's why we record a bunch of takes and we actually use pitch correction later on, but we want to get the take that is not just the closest to what the appropriate pitch would be, but that also carries some emotional weight behind the performance. That's why I mentioned that editing perhaps can be much more emotional than the traditional mixing stage, because you're actually picking out the performances that make you feel something. But Valroy, how do you know if it actually makes you feel something? Well, gosh darn it, I say follow your heart. I say listen with your heart, truly. Does it speak to you? Does it make you feel something? Does it stick in your brain? Does it cause this small burst of dopamine in your brain when you listen to it? These are the signs that I am looking for when I am listening through all of these takes. So it sounds pretty good. Let's go to the next one.
How come it feels when no one says what they're thinking?
Awesome. There's a lot of vibrato there. I really like that. Pretty consistent overall. Let's see.
How come it feels when no one says what they're thinking?
Also pretty good. That's what I like about a good singer or a good musician, good performer, etc. It makes my job a lot easier. So let's keep listening. Alrighty then. So it looks like we have those 3 takes. I wonder if we have anything more. Oh yes, we do actually. We've got one more down here.
How come it feels when no one says what they're thinking?
Ooh, okay, this one had a little bit of a different, shall we say, lift in the voice here.
They're thinking.
Thinking, as opposed to.
They're thinking.
One just kind of flattens out near the bottom. So these are the kind of choices, emotional decisions that I as a producer now have to make and have been entrusted by the artist to make in order to have the best sounding song. So why is this tedious? You have to do this for every voice, or at least I do this, for every voice, for every performance, for every song, for every single word sometimes. And depending on the length of the song, depending on the amount of voices, that can take a lot of work. And it's not particularly sexy work, it's not particularly embellishing kind of work, but in the end, when you have all of the best parts from each performance glued together into a single take, man, it sounds so good because you're literally grabbing the best of the best, right? So that's why it sounds so good in the end. And that's the voice that will go down in history. That's the voice that will be recorded, or rather heard by millions of people all over the world and be remembered by them. That is the voice that will define the song. So it's highly critical that we do this step because it will only make the song better. Let's listen once again. We're going to stick just to this first phrase and choose which one we like the most.
How come it fails?
Pretty good.
How come it fails? How come it fails? How come it fails? How come it fails?
So I like number 3 the most.
How come it fails?
I feel it has more personality. She's a little bit out of tune, but we can correct that later, no problem. I believe that it has the most personality out of these, and it's very subtle, it's very nuanced. But I just have to trust myself, trust my ears, trust my heart, trust my emotions, and those will be my guide in order to choosing the best performance, the best part of each performance.
How come it fails? 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 How come it fails?
Yeah, we like the third one the most. So what do I do then? I go to new playlist. I rename this one Road, I'm going to call it Final. I'm going to put a little 99 here so that it goes at the very bottom. Yeah, and then this one we name 99 LS SM57 Final. They are now linked. They're at the very top now, rather, which is great. And 1, 2, 3, we grab this that we liked the most. We copy and we paste it into our final playlist. So this is the start of our Frankenstein track. Let's go in and listen to what goes after.
Like no one says what they're thinking.
Pretty good.
And no one says what they're thinking. And no one says what they're thinking. And no one says what they're thinking.
I kind of like this fourth one the most.
Like no one says what they're thinking.
Now, I think I had the input on too high in the first take, so that might be... I mean, I could turn it down, but also it was the very, very first take, and we worked on it a bit more afterwards, so I'm not so worried.
And no one says what they're thinking. And no one says what they're thinking. And no one says what they're thinking.
I like this one. This one's really nice. All right, so once again, we cut, copy, and paste. We go back in and we listen to the next phrase.
They say love shouldn't hurt. 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 Shouldn't hurt. Love shouldn't hurt.
Let's make our grid a little bit smaller into eighth notes.
Shouldn't hurt. Shouldn't hurt.
I like the second half of the fourth one. Let's listen again.
They say love shouldn't hurt. They say love shouldn't hurt. They say love shouldn't hurt. They say love shouldn't hurt.
Yeah, okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is why it's so important. I like the second half of the fourth performance, but I like the first half of the second performance. So we're actually going to grab those and put them together here. And right now it sounds like this.
They say love shouldn't hurt.
And of course, this is unacceptable. This sounds like there's been clearly something chopped up incorrectly, and it's completely takes you out of the experience of the song, out of the emotion. It's distracting. It's bad. That is another reason why editing is so friggin' important. So I'm going to switch into slip mode. So now that we can cut and slide, etc., without being restrained by the grid. And we can see that she had a bit of a time discrepancy between one performance and the next. So now we have to go in by hand and fix that.
They say love shouldn't hurt.
What happens if we grab this and move it a little bit over here? Let's see if we can kind of, yeah. Okay, so you see, as I pull the take on the left, we see how one wavelength, one transient, shall we say, starts a little bit earlier than the performance on the right starts. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. I think it'll be pretty close now. Sure, that's good enough. So what happens if I do this?
They say love shouldn't hurt. They say love shouldn't hurt.
It sounds like she sang it in one take. And this is two separate takes that we've just simply glued together because we like how they sound separately. So we put them together and now they sound amazing together. Sometimes when you have this line here between one recording and another recording, you can hear a bit of a pop. It's a miracle that we don't hear one here. But regardless of that, I go in really close and I still put my mouse here near the bottom and I apply this, which is a crossfade. So what a crossfade does is the track on the left, the recording on the left, it fades out as the track on the right is fading in. So it would eliminate any pop or crack that would occur in this seam between both recordings. So I just put a very, very tiny one. Right now, it wasn't entirely necessary because there was no pop, no crack, no nothing like that, but still just to show you what I do.
They say love shouldn't hurt.
It sounds seamless. It's awesome. Let's listen to this part here where there's another seam between two recordings. So you can hear that the breath is actually a little bit different in the left and the right. It's almost as if the breath on the left starts a little bit lower pitch and the breath on the right starts a little bit higher pitch. So how do I deal with breaths? I either pick to maintain the breath of the recording on the right, or I pick to maintain the breath of the recording on the left. And in this case, I'm gonna choose to maintain the breath of the recording on the left. We're gonna fade it out, and we're gonna clean up. There's a little thing here that's some audio information. Let's see if we can actually hear it. It's just a little bit of noise, I guess, from her breath as right before she's actually about to enunciate the word. They say. So it's a small detail, but regardless, I still want to clean it up. So I cut and I do a quick fade in again, and we have now cleaned up the voice of unnecessary noise in between words, in between actual singing, if you will. And now it sounds like this.
They say love shouldn't hurt.
That's awesome. That's 3 different performances, 3 different separate recordings that we have grabbed and put next to each other, cut, faded in, cross-faded, edited, moved around manually, and it sounds like it's this very same performance. It all sounds like it's one actual performance, as if Lisa just sat in front of the microphones, sang it once, and was done. This is the magic of editing. And we've only scratched the surface. This is but the tip of the iceberg, my friends. This is the key towards getting truly beautiful, beautiful vocal performances, guitar solos, drum performances as well. That we will look at in another video, how to time adjust real audio and drums, how to quantize audio and drums. This is the key. So where mixing, there's a lot of magic, and man, boy, do I love to mix, because it is very exciting and you really give so much life to the song and to the tracks. This part of the process, the editing, it's kind of overlooked and it is so important. So important. Let's just listen one more time.
Thinking they say love shouldn't hurt.
Awesome. Here, the breath feels totally natural. There's no weird pop or click in between because of the fades. We jump into another recording performance, and then we jump into another recording performance, but thanks to the crossfade in between, it sounds absolutely seamless. This is why editing is so important. I was about to say, this is why I love editing. I do. I freaking love making music, and I love getting the best out of every single thing that was tracked in here. It's just super tedious. It really is. It's undeniable. So it takes a long time, but you know what? It's absolutely necessary. And if I don't do it, man, I would hate myself for it. I would be listening to those songs at the end and I'd be like, why didn't I should have, like, which thankfully I've never done. You know, I've never skipped out on the editing process because of how important it is. Anyways, enough talk. Let's edit it a little bit more, shall we? Let's just jump straight into this one.
But this one is killing me. But this one is killing me. But this one is killing me.
Interesting.
But this one is killing me.
Ooh, that was nice.
But this one is killing me.
Woo, that's very nice.
But this one is killing me. But this one is killing me.
Okay.
But this one is killing me.
That one, no. It's between the second and the fourth.
But this one is killing me. But this one is killing me. But this one is killing. But this one is killing me.
All right, so I noticed that the first one has a bit of high sibilance in the first half.
But this one is. But this one is.
But I think I like it more than the fourth.
But this one is. But this one is.
There's like a weird right here. It's hard to.
This one is.
It's hard to pinpoint, but you know, you train your ears to sort of hear these kinds of things, and it sounds a bit unpleasant, and I feel like the sibilance of the other one.
But this one is.
Or with a de-esser. So I'm going to keep the first half of the second performance. Let's just grab this here, copy, paste into our final track here. Then we're going to grab the fourth performance.
Killing me. First one is killing me.
Yeah, I mean, that killing me is super rad. I like that a lot. So we cut, copy, and we paste. Now together it sounds like so.
But this one is killing me.
Woo! Freaking nice, that's what I'm talking about. Let's add a little crossfade once again. Super tiny. Over here.
But this one is killing me.
How about if we keep this breath?
But this one is killing me.
Woo! That sounds so freaking nice!
Coming felt,
In context.
coming felt. But no one says what they're thinking. They say love shouldn't hurt. But this one is killing me.
This is how I know it's good. This is how I know it's good, because I'm smiling and it's like, that's, oh God, that sounds awesome. And I begin to feel something. And I get excited and I get this dopamine burst and it's like, all right, we are on the right path. We really are. Wow, so cool. Okay, now I want to show you guys something. So let's just do this right now. We're going to get a stereo auxiliary input track. These two we are going to send into it. Oh wait, sorry. Did I say stereo? I actually want mono. Okay then, so we're going to create this mono auxiliary track here, and we're going to send both microphones through a bus track, let's say bus 13. And the input of the auxiliary is bus 13.
Come falls, and no one says. Come falls.
There we go. So now both microphones are going through this auxiliary track. And let's just see what we got here. Okay, it's just a pretty straightforward, just high ratio compression going on here. We're not going to keep this. This is just for us to work with in the editing stage. And I can feel good about removing these two plugins that we had during tracking.
Come falls, and no one says what they're thinking.
That's a bit much. Let's raise the threshold, lower the ratio.
Come falls, and no one says what they're thinking. They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one is killing me.
Awesome, so cool. Now, another hugely important part of the editing process is pitch correction. So I don't want the compressor to be the first plugin in the chain. I actually want that plugin to be Melodyne. Welcome, please click on Activate. Girlfriend made me tea. And I went for a run, and I had a meeting, and now we're back. After all this, actually, we have to go in, because this is not done being edited.
How come?
Let's see, let's focus just on the vocal. Okay, let's do a fade in as the breath goes in.
Falls, and no one says what they're thinking.
Okay, so there's an obvious break right there and a little click. So we want to get rid of that, as well as matching it with the breath. So let's see, how does the breath look like here? Something kind of like this. Crossfade.
Falls, and falls.
Actually, this just sounds like exhalation from the nose. So maybe if we fade out the end of the word.
Falls, and no one says what they're thinking.
Much more natural.
How come it falls, and no one says what they're thinking? They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one is killing me.
Awesome. I'm just going to get rid of this last breath here. We don't need that right now. Alrighty then, so we've gone into our voice here. We've done the fades in and out, as well as crossfades between the different good performances that we have taken from each take, and comp them together into our Frankenstein take, our comp vocals, whatever you want to call it. And it's so far sounding really, really good. However, as we have been listening, we do find that there are certain little discrepancies in the tuning, and you know, that's just part of it. It's part of being a human. We don't always sing perfectly in pitch. We're sometimes just a little bit out of tune. And for the most part, I want to retain that human element of the performance because it's just that much more natural, that much more sweet, and it really resonates when another human listens to music like that. If it's too perfect, it can be a stylistic choice, for example, auto-tune, and it can be really, really cool, but only under certain circumstances. It is a stylistic choice. And this song, it is not calling for auto-tune at all. So we have both our microphones routed into this auxiliary track over here. We are going to import then Melodyne. And first thing we're going to do is click transfer, and now transfer the vocal melody into Melodyne.
come and falls, but no one says what they're thinking. They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one is killing me.
Very well, and now we have our melody transferred right into Melodyne, and here it is. Amazing. So, these globs that you see here, they are the approximate closest note that is being hit when Lisa is singing. Now, there's this glob here, for example, and it's kind of in between B flat and A natural. So we could describe this note as being out of tune, right? What Melodyne does, it's a pitch corrector, but it's very natural sounding, which is why I like to use it. I want to retain the human element of the performance, but I also want to fine-tune certain melodies or performances. That way, it's not very distracting when you listen back to it, because if something is out of tune to the point where it sounds unpleasant or distracting, it kind of ruins the whole song, if you ask me, right? So, what I like to do first is I just grab everything and then I double click on one of these big blobs, and that immediately latches the big blobs into the closest note. So now you can see this is clearly B flat, B flat, A, etc., right? And you can actually see it over here. We have made the blobs closer to the center, to the pitch center, by 100%. If I were to decrease this amount, then we return, this is the normal, raw performance. And as I increase it, everything gets closer and closer and closer to the actual pitch. So that's how I like to start off with the pitch correction in Melodyne. Let's listen.
How come it falls, but no one says what they're thinking? They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one's killing me.
Overall, it sounds really good. However, it's not always perfect. After listening once, I noticed that this note here and this note here feel like they are actually not the correct note. I think both of them are a bit flat. So I'm just gonna grab and manually move it up. Let's have another listen then.
Falls, but no one says what they're thinking.
That sounds way better.
Falls, but no one says what they're thinking.
Nice. And now this one over here.
They're thinking. They say love shouldn't hurt.
Yeah, it is a bit flat.
They're thinking. They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one's killing me.
Nice. So the pitch has clearly been corrected, and it still retains that human element from the performance, which is exactly what we're looking for. Alrighty then. I love it. I also noticed one other thing. So where these big blobs give us the closest approximate note that the algorithm detects, the real note, the real frequency, the main frequency that is being hit by the vocal is not where the blob is. It's actually where this line is. And you can tell there's all these little discrepancies here, and it's kind of bouncing around in A flat, but you know, it's not like auto-tune perfect. If it were auto-tune perfect, then this line would be just flat straight across. And then she has a vibrato here that goes up and down and up and down, and it's bouncing quite a bit. Now this vibrato too, down here. Why? Because now the peak lands right at the edge of A flat and A natural, but this at the bottom here, it dips into G natural. This peak and this valley are about the same distance away from the center of what A flat would be. So here I'm using my ears and I'm seeing that, like, okay, if I vibrato would kind of go down a bit, because so if we put it right here, it looks like this vibrato should be in pitch. Let's listen. Awesome. Let's just solo.
What they're thinking.
Beautiful. Okay. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Let's listen to the whole thing once again, just to see if there's anything that we missed.
How come it felt like no one says what they're thinking? They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one is killing me.
So maybe this note is a little flat.
How come it felt like no one says what they're thinking? They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one is killing me.
All right, so that sounds better. Let's listen to it in context.
They say love shouldn't.
Nice, and it just, to my ears, it just, though here it says it's pretty much in the middle, it just sounds a tad bit too sharp. A little bit.
They say love shouldn't hurt, they're thinking. They say love shouldn't hurt.
It's actually, if it doesn't exactly, it sounds kind of nicer if it doesn't exactly land on the note.
They're thinking. They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one's killing me.
Perfectly imperfect. So we've even gone in and actually moved things around a bit more to retain that human element, that imperfection that just gives music this beautiful quality, you know? Kind of like a grainy older movie or something, you know? It's when something is overly produced or everything has to be perfect according to the chart, whatever, then it begins to lose a little bit of its soul, and we don't want that. We want to really keep the soul. So now, if I grab the whole melody here, and I go here, we can tell that after the movements that we've made, the pitch center is no longer at 100%. We've actually kind of brought it down a bit. Now, we have this other parameter here called pitch drift. Let me show you what it does, but first, I'm going to get real close here. So, we have the line, correct? Which is the real pitch of the voice. These globs just move around. But where Lisa's voice is going is from this A flat up to this B flat, all the way up here to this D flat as well. If I grab the whole melody and I turn on this pitch drift, watch what happens to the lines. You can actually see it more here. It's grabbing Lisa's voice and kind of forcing it even more in pitch. It's, shall we say that the more you turn this up, the closer it's getting to an auto-tune kind of effect. You can't quite achieve it with this, this version of Melodyne, and nor do we want to. I would say that raising the pitch drift here is actually taking away those beautiful imperfections of Lisa's voice. So it actually does affect it quite a bit. Maybe I would use it if there was a really heavy and undulating vibrato that perhaps is a little bit too much all over the place. I might use the pitch drift to actually control it. But in this case, I really want to keep it at 0. I mean, let's play it with at 100% just so we can have a reference. So this is with the pitch drift, 100%. There we go.
How come it falls when no one says what they're thinking? They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one's killing me.
I particularly heard it in this section right here. It feels like it's really being forced to do something that's not very natural.
Love shouldn't hurt.
It sounds weird to my ears. So let's go back in and we grab the pitch drift and we take it back down to 0. And this is now much more natural.
How come it falls when no one says what they're thinking? They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one's killing me.
And there you go. This is basically the full regiment of what I do in order to edit vocals. And I do this with other instruments as well, between cutting and comping together the best performances of each take to form this Frankenstein comp take at the end. Melodyne I really only use in voices, bass guitar if it's a single note, and maybe an element here or there. But you can see now why, yeah, it is tedious, but it's extremely important. This song is going to be recorded, mixed and mastered, and released out into the world like this forever. And personally, as an engineer, if I let one of these details slip through the cracks, I'm going to be just punching myself for the rest of time. Because why didn't I do that? It's going to be too distracting. It's not going to make the song as good. The listener won't be able to enter the flow state of really connecting with the song if there's an element that is out of tune or distracting or some noise that shouldn't be there. This is the key to why editing is so important. And I don't know why it's not talked about more, but it really should be. Alrighty then, so let's just listen one last time.
How come it falls when no one says what they're thinking? They say love shouldn't hurt, but this one's killing me.
Awesome. This voice now has attitude. It's in tune, but not so much in tune that it's like a distracting auto-tune that wouldn't fit with the vibe of the song. It still retains some of that human imperfection, that organic and real performance that Lisa did, and it sounds like she did it in one take instead of 3 separate ones that we actually comped together. This is why editing is so important to get a super professional and polished sound in the end, because like I mentioned before, this song is going to be released in a certain way, and everybody is going to listen to that song and they're going to connect with that song. And if there's something that is distracting about it, especially in the voice, which is maybe the focus of this this kind of music, then that's a big red flag. It would just instantly kill the vibe for the listener. They wouldn't be able to connect with the song emotionally, which is why it's such an emotional, like you're literally listening to your heart here, because you want the voice to convey something that the people can feel and that they can actually connect with, right? This is why editing is so important. And I don't think it's talked about enough. So yeah, guys, I think that's it for today. Like, share, follow, all that good stuff. If you learned something, let me know. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask. And next video, we're going to be exploring the next step in mixing Lisa's album and what it takes to take this song from just the raw tracks to a beautiful, finished, polished master that's radio ready, ready for streaming, everything like that. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, you guys. Till next time, it's your boy Valroy, and peace out.